What you are seeing now is not AI, it is not CGI, it is 100% real footage from the Spring Gala Festival, China's big music and dance performance celebrating Chinese New Year. It's been the most watched TV show in China since its premiere in 1984, and it is live streamed on New Year's Eve every year to over a billion viewers in China. Last year saw the first appearance of robots. They were shown off in what now feels like fairly mundane routine movements, but was considered state of the art at the time. And just 12 months later, we have this. Not only are these robots capable of the whole range of human movement, but they can outcompete even the best human acrobats at this point. And keep in mind, this is not the frontier of the technology. Unitree and other Chinese robotics companies have advanced past this point months ago, but they can't risk deploying their cutting-edge tech at the live-streamed Spring Gala event because there's absolutely no room for error. If something were to go wrong on stage, that will be considered a national humiliation. So Unitree will only risk technology that is already well established and reliable. Even so, what we're seeing now in 2026 is absolutely jaw-dropping and would have been considered science fiction just 2 or 3 years earlier. If someone went into a coma in 2023 and only woke up now to see this, they'd assume that they've been in a coma for 30 years, not 3. Many folks in the West might be terrified to see this kind of advanced robotics technology. When Americans see robotics in action, all they think of is the Terminator and Predator drones. The Chinese don't have that kind of reaction. There is no Chinese equivalent to the Terminator, and our government doesn't go around the world killing people with drones. When we see robots, we think of human progress, scientific advancement, and hope for the future. That's our cultural context for robots and AI. In that sense, it's honestly kind of sad that Americans and other Westerners feel so much fear and anxiety when faced with a future dominated by robots and AI. Fortunately for the world, the cutting-edge tech of the future is in the hands of a civilization that has prospered for millennia in relative peace and harmony with its neighbors. War is just not in China's civilizational DNA. We don't do it often, and we don't like doing it, and if we're being real, we're not very good at it. We're the ones who've managed to keep East Asia as a PvE server for most of its history. The hardcore PvP servers are in Europe and North America. And for the good of humanity, we're the ones leading the field now in both robotics and AI. If the Americans had this kind of robotics technology, where humanoid robots could outperform human acrobats, they'd be on the streets of Minneapolis murdering unarmed civilians and kidnapping 5-year-olds. It would literally just be the movie Chappie, but even more dystopian. Instead, because the tech is in the hands of China, these robots are performing acrobats on stage while dressed in festive outfits. The world can breathe a sigh of relief. They dodged a robot-fired bullet with this one. Zooming out a bit, it's stuff like this which makes me wonder why anyone in 2026 would still insist that a future where China is the dominant world power would somehow be worse than the US-dominated one that we currently live in. And to be fair, I don't think that many of these people are left anymore. America's outrageous behavior in 2025 has forced many around the world, even many Westerners, to wake up to the fact that China is not the bad guy, at least not when the closest point of comparison is the United States. But still, there are still people who insist that Trump's America is just an anomaly, and that future Democratic presidents will bring America back from the brink of total fascism. They still believe that there's hope for the American empire. And maybe they're right, but they're probably not. When it comes to China, these people argue that China's current passivity is due to its lack of power, not its lack of intent. This view is obviously wrong, and all we need to do to understand why it's wrong is to compare China with Russia. Russia has less than 1/10 of China's population and GDP, and yet it plays a far more aggressive role in global politics than China does. For example, it's doing much more than China to counter the expansion of the American empire around the world. If China had Russia's mentality, then there would be Chinese warships steaming towards Cuba now to break the American blockade. And I'm sure that plenty of folks now in 2026 would like to see that kind of China. But for better or worse, probably for worse, that's just not the China that we have. The China that we have is one that prides itself in not seeking to displace the US as the global hegemon. China thinks that doing nothing is a flex. So, whether you want or don't want to see a new China centered world order, it's just not something that China itself is actively pursuing. It's a simple lack of intent, not a lack of capability or resources. The inescapable fact is that China is the world's industrial and now scientific superpower. The United States is an increasingly distant second place. And yet, because China has little interest in exerting its power, the US continues to dominate. So, the question of which of the two superpowers would make for a better global hegemon is moot because only one of them has any interest in global hegemony to begin with. And unfortunately for the world, it's the wrong one. Anyway, that wraps up my little New Year musing. I kept it short and probably not too sweet, but I hope it was at least fun to watch the cool robots do kung fu. Happy Chinese New Year to you all, and best wishes for the year of the fire horse. May we all witness yet another year of China doing amazing things while the Americans continue to embarrass themselves in truly groundbreaking ways. Peace.